All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports. As I'm sure many of you know what's about to happen, we're going to be recapping that miserable game that is the 2024 Oklahoma-Texas Red River shootout, rivalry, whatever you want to call it. We've got a lot to get into, so without further delay, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, follow everything in the description down below, social media, Apple Podcast, Spotify. All right. So Oklahoma falls to 4-2 after just a terrible performance at the Red River Shootout. Brandon, we've been texting back and forth about this for the last day, but I'm gonna kick it over to you so you can start. How do you feel about this team and what the outlook of the rest of the season is? I know for a lot of fans and people that watch college football probably think that Oklahoma's future isn't very good. And the record predictions probably tanking a lot. But what are your thoughts on what this team has shown to be and what they could be moving forward?
Hopefully bowl eligible. I don't think it's a lock anymore. I'm usually a very optimistic fan, very sunshine pumper, if you will, all that good stuff. Even after the Tennessee loss, I felt like we showed enough to where I was like, well, I think the team could still win 8 or 9 games. I think with Hawkins in there, we might be able to get somewhat of an offense going, and I think the defense is good enough. I still feel like the defense is good enough. They get put in a lot of bad spots. But after watching that offense, if you follow us on Twitter and stuff, this episode's pretty much not necessary because we put all of our everything we were feeling onto Twitter. I think the past couple of days, and really the fact that Seth Luttrell wasn't left at the Cotton Bowl, left at the fair, is ridiculous. I think the guy. He doesn't even care. That's really what it feels like to me. Is he just doesn't give a shit. Like, I get when you're down 5 receivers, that's a huge blow to any team. That's going to be a detriment to your offense. That's going to hinder your offense without a doubt. Like, there's no doubt about it. I get losing Gary and Hatchett, who was a starter on the line to a torn bicep, week 1 or something. Is another thing that sucks. There's at least six starters on offense that you're without five in one group. So there's no doubt that hinders the offense a little bit. That sucks. But to be at an SEC program like Oklahoma we have these high expectations, and we should, because the history is there for us. We've been a dominant team for years and years and years and years and years, with the exceptions of a couple, 6-6 seasons or shitty seasons. But for the most part, this is a proud and elite franchise, elite program historically. For him to have 2 weeks to prepare for your biggest rival, of all time, and I get it. Texas is really good. This is not to discredit Texas at all. They looked fantastic. I think they have a chance to really do some things, but to have 2 weeks to prepare for one team, game tape, practices, whatever you got to do, and to have, I think, 149 yards somewhere midway through the fourth quarter, showing absolutely zero variety on offense, showing zero ability to move the ball. Your quarterback's running for his life every play. There's no game planning. You score 3 points, get your ass totally fucking embarrassed in the game that you really hate to get embarrassed in, because we all hate Texas, and that's just now we're gonna have to hear them talk shit for a year about how they beat up a half Oklahoma team with a dumbass for a coordinator. I just think the lack of preparation, I think, on Luttrell's part, and then just like to add gas to the fire, or whatever, is after the game, after the ass slacking, you lose by 31 points, and your offense does nothing. For him not to talk to the team or the players, or just kind of tuck his tail and hide. I think the guys, like I said, I think the fact that he wasn't left at the fair is annoying. And I firing him is going to be something that, if it does happen, it has to happen, I feel like, but it hasn't happened yet. So if it does happen, it's obviously going to make us all feel, as fans, it's going to feel like a mini win almost. Like, finally that guy's gone. We can build something now. The problem is, it's not going to. I don't think you can really fix your offense this season that much. You can improve a little bit. I mean, it obviously can't get worse. So you're going to only improve a little bit offensively based off that game, but you can't fix this long term midseason. You have to find the right guy in the offseason, whoever that might be. There's a couple of guys out there that I like, but I mean, just yeah. I mean, overall, yeah, the defense. I get that they're getting some shit on for 21 points in 12 minutes and this and that, but when the offense fumbles the ball 3 times in plus territory, it's just deflating. And like they come out of the game with their hair on fire. For 18 minutes, they held Texas scoreless. They had like 13 yards by the first quarter end or something. Like the defense was on fire. And then, but when you're constantly doing this shit and you're playing fantastic, and then the other half of your fucking team is doing nothing, it's deflating. And I really think that. I think that's a fear I have for the rest of the season is, the defense, they can only get sold or they can only get fucked over so many times before I think they just completely throw in the towel. And to be honest, it would be kind of hard to blame them if they did. As fans, we don't want to see that because we want to win every game. But if you go to work and you're doing 95% of the work and you have another coworker who's doing 5%, eventually you're going to be fucking fed up and quit trying too. And I feel like that's where the defense, if the offense keeps playing this way, that's the trajectory that we're going to be going down.
Yeah, I think that's 100% fair. With like how the defense could react, there's a lot of things that could go bad if Venables doesn't. I mean, as you said, as fans, we would like to see Latrell gone yesterday. But as a team, I think if the first thing, once the season is over in December or November, if your first move isn't to let go of, at the very least, Finley and Latrell, then you're probably going to lose a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball. And the reason I say that is because you're putting him in a bad position every single game because this offense can't do anything. Like anything. The first quarter was basically, it looked like the script that he had was kind of going to a T, and then once he had to go off script, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So that defense could just get fed up and be like, all right, there's other defenses out there that are just as good, if not better, and their offense can at least keep the ball for 5 minutes and get some points so that we're not just put in these terrible situations week in and week out. If you do fire them, I think ideally you fire them. End of the season, you fire them, and you kind of just deal with whatever repercussions that comes with when it comes to the portal. Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. And I really don't think you're going to have very many repercussions. If anything, if you hire the right guy, you get to keep your quarterbacks, both Jackson and Mike. Hope they get developed by an actual quarterbacks coach and go into the 2025 season with some semblance of hope. And I do think that they're not the only problem. They're the biggest problem. Latrell's the one that's getting the most heat here because he's the play caller, the guy sitting in the press box, the one that's supposed to be taking charge of this offense. But Finley is no better. And I've mentioned it in past episodes over the last year or so. I don't think he's a very good recruiter. He kind of lucked out because Hawkins and his camp are very close with Devon Mitchell. They grew up together. Seems apparently they're best friends growing up, so that helped him a lot. But if it wasn't for that, like Devon Mitchell could have easily been at Alabama. And I don't think, after looking at the production he's had with tight ends and how this season has gone so far, you wouldn't blame the guy because he can't coach or develop. Like Caden Helms has been at this program, and yes, injuries have stopped him, but when he's not hurt, he's never touched the field. Finley and Coach B, for the last 3 seasons since Venables has been the guy for Oklahoma, have relied solely on the transfer portal to try to get a full new unit out there year in and year out. Going to Coach B, I think Brandon and I have had this discussion. He still, I think, I'm not going to speak for him, but I know when we have had this, he's been like, I get why people would want to fire him, but he's also like pro Coach B. I'm kind of just out on him completely. His unit has sucked all year. They were better but not good. Like, just because you go from really stinky shit to not as stinky shit doesn't mean it's not shit, right? So if he doesn't get fired, that I think that's an issue. Not because his unit is bad, like that is a big problem. But look at what Texas was when Sark came in as the head coach. Their offensive line was not very good. They were not what they are today. But their new offensive line coach did everything he could to recruit at a high level. He might have not always had the hottest of recruiting classes at the offensive line, but he started his young guys and it sucked for a year, but they continued to develop and now they have one of the better offensive lines in the country. Coach B is not willing to do that. We have yet to see him legitimately go back to the guys he's recruited and just say, hey, we're going to deal with what they are now, but in the future, they're going to be better. We haven't seen that since his Joe Moore winning line with Creed Humphrey leading that team. It's been a long time. Creed Humphrey has now gone on to his second contract in the NFL. He is a great NFL player, and that's going to be an argument that we're probably going to hear for people or the side of the Sooner Nation that does love Coach B, that he puts guys in the NFL. And I get that. That's a big recruiting tool. But he's not the only one that puts people in the NFL, the way I see it. There's got to be someone out there that is more prepared to rebuild this offensive line because he just hasn't shown to be it. And I think there's also a little bit of like more love for him than other coaches because he did stick around after the Lincoln Riley stuff. So there's kind of like that little bit in our hearts where like we know he sucks, but he did right by Oklahoma. So you don't want to do him wrong, maybe. That's just a thought. Really, the only one that kind of gets a pass for their unit is Emmett Jones because he has legitimately been handicapped all year, losing all five of his receivers really for most of the season. And Deion Brooks was the one that was healthy for 4 games and got hurt. But like DeMarco Murray kind of gets a pass, but I think that's also kind of goes back. A running back can only do so much when there's a not bad offensive line ahead of him. You just got to kind of scrap who you need to and let the new guy, whoever gets hired, replace the entire offensive staff if that's what he wants.
I think the only ones who are, I would say are safe are probably Emmett Jones and DeMarco Murray. I think everyone else is going to be taken serious look at. But I also can see that, if I keep saying it because it hasn't happened yet, but it has to happen because at the end, if Brent Venables and company, Josie, the decision makers at the highest level of Oklahoma football, if they don't decide at the end of the season, barring some sort of miracle recovery, because there's 6 games to go, so somehow, some way, the Sooners come out and average 45 points a game the rest of these final 6 games, I think those guys save their jobs, but. With the first 6 games that we've seen this season, I don't think there's a shot in hell that is the case. So just assuming the offense continues to play at this trajectory and it is horrible all season, like I said, if Brent Venables and Joe Castiglione and the highest of high of Oklahoma football don't decide to fire those 2 guys, Brent Venables is jeopardizing his own job because at the end of the day, he is the head coach of this program. He's done a great job defensively, from year 1 to where we are now to where we could be next year. I think this defense is going to continue to take leaps and bounds and just continue to improve and continue to be good. And you love that because I think, the SEC, there's explosive, high-powered offenses everywhere. So I think you want to be a team that is centered around defense and kind of sound there. And I think that's only going to get better. But Brent Venables is not a defensive coordinator anymore. He is the head coach of this program. I think when he took the job, he had the right idea. Jeff Lebby, Jeff Lebby had his shitty moments. There's no doubt about it. He wasn't perfect, but I think he was the right guy for the job. Year 1, you're 6-6, but that's everybody's first year there. BV, Lebby, the entire staff, with the exception of Beaton-Bow and the stragglers that we had from the LR team that stayed with us. It was their first year there. It was installing a brand new offense, installing everything brand, from the jump, and that happens. And then year 2, you see a significant jump. You have a quarterback that was year 2 in a system. You had a core of receivers until Andrell went out. You had, I think you had a pretty good run game. You had an offensive line that wasn't horrible. And the Sooners through the first 6 weeks through the first 6 weeks of last season looked fantastic. Like they were about to be on a quest for a national championship. And then Jeff Levy called 2 terrible games last season. I think the Kansas game especially was awful, and you lose that game, and you lose Oklahoma obviously. But like all this to say, Jeff Levy, I think we'd all take him back in 1 second now with what we're currently dealing with. And so I think Brent Venables he's shown that he can find the right guy. I think Levy was the right guy. Mississippi State obviously thought so. They took him as their head coach. So we can do it. I think when you fire Luttrell and Joe John, you got to think about it. This is Oklahoma still. I mean, it is a blue blood. It is it's historically rich and proud program. It's in the SEC now. And you look at Jeff Levy. He spent 2 seasons at Oklahoma. Really had 1 great season. And got poached for a head coaching job. This is a position that when it opens, you're going to attract a lot of very high quality offensive minded guys in the sport of college football, wherever, maybe even the NFL level. You're going to get a lot of guys that are interested in this job. So I don't think you're going to be short on pickings. And I don't hate your idea of, really handing the keys over. You do your due diligence. You interview all these guys that you might like, and whoever sells you on who should have the position. I don't hate completely handing the keys to them. Be like, all right, the staff is yours. You can do what you want, whatever. But I mean, I think I do think losing Emma Jones and DeMarco Murray, especially, would not be good if that was the direction. But whatever, we'll see what happens. I think the problem though is you might have another down-ish season on offense next year. In year 1 under a new OC. Certainly it can't be as bad as this year. You should have a lot of guys back next year too. But yeah, man, they gotta go.
Yeah, they can't be gone fast and soon enough. Obviously, like we all have different hopes on who the potential new C would be, assuming that the right thing is done. And right as a fan, obviously they're people. It sucks that they have to go through losing their job, but they're still getting paid, so they're not losing out on money. Luckily for them, they just kind of suck at this job. They can go find another one somewhere else. The defense, because I think we all agree, offense is terrible and needs to be changed yesterday. Defense, on the other hand, mixed situation in my opinion. I think that they started off hot, like you mentioned, getting a pick on the first drive, getting stops. I mean, you held Texas to 0 points in the first quarter. Like you started off really great. Then Texas made adjustments. Something happened where kind of went downhill. And that's where the complementary football should be. Like you can't expect your offense to play 40 minutes of your defense to play 40 minutes of perfect football, because not only is it an extremely long time for them to be on the field, but at the end of the day, you have to get more points than the other team. So the likelihood of keeping a offense that high powered to 0 points for that long is unlikely. So you're not going to win 3-0. You got to win like 24-21. Like I think if Oklahoma would have had any semblance of offense and scoring, then I don't know if Oklahoma wins. I'm not even going to go that far, but you at least make it a competition, because this defense can. Then it's still a chess match between Sark and Ali, rather than Sark kind of knew like Oklahoma can't just rush my quarterback anymore. He'll have more time in the pocket. They have to defend the pass, and Oklahoma is not very good at defending the pass, so you're kind of falling into their trap. You're doing what they would ideally like to see. Tackling wasn't great, but again, I'm the defense's downfalls For this game, I would give a pass just because the offense didn't help them in any way, both in keeping the ball and when the defense did manage to get a stop, they didn't capitalize on it. So you can only do so much. Like you mentioned at the top, like at some point it has to be deflating to do everything in your power to stop the other team from moving the ball, getting a touchdown, getting into plus territory sometimes for this defense, not just in this Texas game, but in games throughout this year. There's been times where they don't even let the other team to the other side of the 50, and then the offense just decides they don't feel like doing very well. The offensive coordinator, I'm not even going to put this one on the players because at this point, it's not even just execution. There's clearly an issue with how they are coaching to prepare for the week, and
Yeah, I
nothing is
mean,
going on.
defensively, 34 points looks bad. I get that. But, 21 of that comes in a 12-minute stretch in which the offense gave them the ball at the 40-yard line, 35-yard line, 50-yard line, whatever it was. And then they go on a flurry. And one of those is a play where they have a busted coverage and the dude's running free to the end zone. And they had the wherewithal and the effort to run him down. And not only that, but actually knock the ball out. And you force a fumble at the 2-yard line or whatever, but it rolls into the end zone and Texas recovers for a touchdown. It's just shit like that. Watching your defense or being out there and forcing a fumble right there. Right on the doorknob of the end zone, and then seeing it recovered in the end zone for a touchdown, and then so it's 14-3, and then watching your offense come on the field and 30 seconds later do the exact same shit. That sequence right there alone, they're human too. As frustrated as we are as fans, there's no way in hell that you don't lose a little bit of your of your will. Essentially, it breaks you. Because it breaks us as fans to watch it because it's like, what the fuck are you doing? And then. But I feel like for a defense, just that stretch alone is watching your offense fumble, busting a wide open run because of blown coverage, whatever the case may be, but running it down, forcing a fumble at the goal line. They recover in the end zone for a touchdown. 30 seconds later, your offense fumbles the ball again. Right, it's deflating. I don't care who you are. And then they fumbled again before halftime. It should have been 24-3. It was just bad football after bad football after bad football on offense, and it's like at some point, if you're doing 95% of the work, you're gonna quit, and I think that's kind of what happens in this game. 21 points in a 12-minute stretch, 13 points the rest of the game. I think for the most part, the defense was very sound. I think they did more than enough to win that game, and I genuinely believe if the offense gave them any sort of life, any sort of signs, I think they're playing a little more tighter, a little better. Not saying that they're going to hold Texas scoreless because that's not going to happen. I agree that's too high powered of an offense, but I don't know. I think they're playing a lot harder in certain stretches if the offense isn't consistently saying, "Here you go, pal, try it again."
Yeah, and really, like we've kind of said everything, and I've said everything that you can really say, in my opinion, about the Texas game. Now it's like looking forward. What do the next 6 games look like? Because now, while it might not look as intimidating as it did when the season first started, now you host South Carolina, who has a good defense, at least a good defensive line. And if this offensive line isn't ready, it doesn't matter who's back there. You can have Baker Mayfield back, and he might not have much of a chance because the the offensive coordinator can't call shit, and he'll get hit within 3 seconds of getting the snap. Then you go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. Ole Miss might not be the scary team that everyone expected them to be. They were definitely one of the teams that had the most hope into competing for a national championship this season. Now they've dropped 2 already, so they're also 4-2. I think they've had their bye week already as well. So, but you go to Ole Miss, much better offense than ours. If we can't score, their defense doesn't suck. If we can't score, which doesn't look like we can, not gonna come out with a W. Then you host Maine. For the love of God, please don't drop that one. or we're just all going to quit on football. Because then you get Missouri at Missouri. They don't look as good as people expected, but again, this offense can't score. Alabama doesn't look as scary, but again, this offense can't score. And then you finish the season at LSU. And if that's a night game, don't even show up because this offense can't score. And LSU in a night game is going to be probably the hardest environment that you've played in this season.
Yeah, no, injuries really, really hurt this team. Offensive play calling, Seth Luttrell killed this team. That's kind of how I look at it. I mean, you have one game in Maine that you're going to win. You're going to beat Maine, so that's 5. But there's no other game on the schedule that you can really look at confidently and be like, oh, we should definitely win this game. South Carolina might be your best chance, depending on what South Carolina team shows up. If I forget who they played in the opener, I think with Georgia Southern or something, and that could be wrong. But it was not a very good program, and I think they scored 2 offensive touchdowns, and the only reason they scored them is because their defense got takeaways at the 5-yard line, and so they punched those in. If you play that South Carolina team, if you play the South Carolina team that got dog walked by Kentucky, was that what happened? I don't know. I think they got beat. Somebody beat the hell out of them. I thought it was Kentucky, but I could be wrong. But then you look at them and they take LSU to the wire. They take Alabama to the wire. It's no gimme win there in South Carolina. You said what you need to say about Ole Miss. I mean, defensively, I don't think they're anything special, but our defense can only stop them for so long without the offense doing shit. Yeah, I mean, if the offense can't somehow manage to look slightly below average at this point, I don't even want to say average because I don't know if they can muster that right now. Just slightly below average. We might have a chance to steal a couple of those, steal one of those. We'll see. It's tough, man. The offense really just killed a promising start or a season that we were pretty excited for. Going into the season, we thought we had everything we needed. I really thought it was the deepest. I thought it was the deepest wide receiver room in the SEC. And then the football gods took every single one of them away. The offensive line was the question mark going in, and we thought, we convinced ourselves that it's still going to look okay. It's going to be decent. It has not been decent, and that's really killing a season. And then this is the part where you really start to feel bad for both Jackson and Mike Hawkins. I mean, but no matter who's back there throughout the first 6 games of the season, they're really running for their life the whole time. Even in the Temple game, J.A. got sacked 5 times. Like it's like this whole season has been whoever the quarterback is just running for their life.
Yeah, I think the best course of action, like for the rest of this year, and I was talking about it with friends. I took, being in Dallas, we took the dart back home, the dart train. I'm sure anyone that's gone to OU Texas is very familiar with that form of transportation. I was literally just chatting with another OU fan, and we both came to the conclusion: if Luttrell isn't fired before the next game, it's because there's literally no one that can take over his job that's currently on the staff, or that Venables believes that. I would strongly disagree, because I think literally anyone could do the job. Give a random college student an Xbox up in the press box and have him take coach suggestions the entire game, and it would be better. But the offensive line sucks still. You're still dealing with injuries with the wide receiver room. The quarterback needs someone that can actually coach him so that they can seemingly learn to anticipate a throw, because unless it's wide open, they're not really taking the shot. And to just throw the ball further than 10 yards, we talked about it in the preview. If it fell back into that shell where they didn't at least show a threat of pushing the ball down the field, Texas's defense might not be the world beater, but they're good enough that they can cover 10 yards. Those linebackers are athletic enough. The defensive line is good enough. And they showed it like that. at the end of the day, like Oklahoma's making the opposing defenses look better than they truly are, but that defense is at the end of the day doing their job and making the Oklahoma offense work for every single bit of their 150 yards that they get every week, and it's not good.
Yeah, that's just another thing that is frustrating to me is watching these games and hearing the commentators or whoever's on the call complimenting whoever are playing on defense. Oh man, this Texas defense looks really, really good. Well, to be fair, dipshits, I think the best high school program in the nation would probably look pretty good right now against this Oklahoma offense. It has nothing to do with the Texas defense. I'll say it. The Texas defense, whatever, they might be fine, but the glazing and the sucking of them off during that game had nothing to do with Texas defense. I think about 95% of the defense in the country were going to look really, really good on Saturday against us offensively. It's just our offense has been so bad. It ruined a season that we thought had a lot of promise. It is what it is, It's Boomer Sooner forever. It's not an unfixable problem. I think this could simply be a get the right guy in the offseason, and all of a sudden you look totally different next season because that defense is still going to be there. You get the right guy. He brings some of his guys with him. He gets some recruits. He runs his kind of offense. This could be a simple offseason fix. I mean, that's the best. That's the best thing that we can hope for, right? I mean, that's what we all want. But it's not doomsday forever. It's going to be a long season. It's going to be not a fun season, but it is what it is, and that's pretty much all I have. I think the last thing I did want to finish on, Anthony Hill played a hell of a game on Saturday. The kid is very good at college football. Not knocking that. He's going to be special. He's going to get probably a first-round guy, this, that, all that. I think he looked like an idiot planting the flag on a Baker Mayfield jersey. I'm just going to go out and say it. I don't think that was the flex or power move he thought it was. They actually asked Baker about it after his game today. And he was like, man, I'm just a kid from Austin, Texas who beat them in my last two Red Rivers, and I'm still living rent-free in their head. So it's pretty great. And that's how it looks. I mean, Baker Mayfield hasn't played college football at Oklahoma in 7 years, and they are still obsessed with him. Still obsessed enough to where they're going to plant a flag on a Baker Mayfield jersey, who, again, has not played football in 7 years at Oklahoma, who had nothing to do with that game. It shows that Baker lives in their head, and that's all that accomplished. I think for Texas, I think that was a miss on their end to try and shit talk.
And I don't know, I can't recall any other player other than like planning it specifically on a Baker jersey. I can't recall any other player before Baker where he took a flag and planted it on an opposing team's field. Maybe there was. I just don't know it. But anyone that's kind of like come up with something original, if you're gonna do it, at least for a team like Texas, if you're gonna do it against Oklahoma, kind of create your own thing because you're just embracing what Baker started. So,
Yeah, again,
but I mean that at the end of the day, like it just shit talk. I think they won the game. They earned it.
they won.
This game sucks.
I agree.
Our agree. Sucks.
They won. Texas looks really good. Texas can do some crazy things this year. I think they're really good. No doubt about it. Anthony Hill is a fantastic college football player. All I'm saying is that was a horrible miss at talking shit. I think genuinely. I think there's a lot of things they could have done to talk shit. They could have had fun. They could have chirped the fan. I'm sure they did all of that stuff, but that was like their big aha moment was to plant a flag in a Baker Mayfield jersey. I think that was a miss. That's a huge swing and a huge miss.
I will say this: that was a miss, but Sark might have had the better of the shit talking moments. I don't know if you saw.
The corn dog was decent. Yeah, the corn dog was decent.
At least that's kind of funny. You're like, all right, you were gonna have it. Look, I'm the one that gets to eat the corn dog.
That's decent.
That's a good one.
Brent Venables had a lot to do with that game. Brent Venables is the head coach at Oklahoma. Anthony Hill is planting a flag on a dude who hasn't played for us for 7 years. That's a huge miss.
Yep. I mean, we're gonna be back tomorrow. We're gonna talk about the South Carolina game. Hopefully, something good can happen there. Obviously, today was not a lot of positivity, but I don't think you really can bring a lot of positivity after what happened at the Red River Shootout. Let us know your thoughts. Go into the comment section. Just pour your emotions out there because I can promise you we probably agree. Maybe
It's
not
gonna
to some
be
people's the same
it's
extent, but we will
it's gonna
probably agree.
be filled with half Texas fans, and it gets me going. It grinds my gears to see that shit on our YouTube channel. So I'll probably be there firing away in comment sections back on against for the UT fans.
At the end of the day, the way I see it is if UT fans are watching and you've even made it this far, the fact that you have gone out of your way to watch a 30 plus minute video about Oklahoma football and then you go shit talking in the comment section just shows that you are now the Oklahoma little brother because in your lifetime you've more than likely seen more losses in this game than wins. And look, you deserve to win sometimes because you are, especially this year, a very talented team. But boy, do you suck more often than not. And that's okay. We've all accepted that.
And I will just say, under the Venables era, obviously we're 1-2, but the one time we had a full team, we won. And they've beaten, and granted, they beat the hell out of two. They beat the hell out of two half of Oklahoma teams. At the end of
Yeah.
the day, is the truth.
My final question for you and for the people watching. Which one hurts more? 49-0 or this last weekend's game?
See, I have to say this one because luckily, by the grace of God, I was absent for the 49-0 game. I was off doing the military shit, so I did not see any of that season. So I was not subjected to 49-0. So I have to pick this one.
I'm going to say this one hurts more, and I got to watch both because there was hope that this offense could do something versus 49-0. You knew going in that you were going to have just a quarterback that wasn't really going to be able to do much. And then you got Davis Bevel. And you saw the Wild. We literally stopped playing with Davis Bevel. It became a 10-on-11 game. And Oklahoma was at least able to move the ball. I'm pretty sure if you go back and look at the box score, Oklahoma had more yards in that 49-0 game than they did this last weekend. Someone can fact check me there because I'm not going to go back and double check it right now, but I'm pretty sure that 2022 Oklahoma team that was playing with 10 men on the offense was a better at moving the ball down the field. They just couldn't get it in the end zone. They could have gotten 3 points, but at that point they were just too far behind. They couldn't settle for 3. But all right, let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe. Follow on all social media and the link in the description down below. We'll see you guys next time.